knew there'd be red T-shirts today, that's for sure, right? Everyone good? Come on over this side. Good? Use a few, it's up to you if a couple of you want to come over on the other side. I think we're good. Good afternoon. Sorry to be a couple of minutes behind here. So 11 days ago, it was 10 innocent shoppers at a supermarket in Buffalo. Yesterday, it was 19 beautiful, precious school children and 2 educators in their one classroom in Texas, an elementary school, by the way, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th graders. Another day in America, another horrific act of gun violence enabled by the weak and feckless politicians kept in the holster of the gun lobby. As a father and as a human being, my heart is broken for the families who are reeling from this incomprehensible tragedy. Fred Guttenberg is one of our closest friends. His daughter Jamie was murdered in Parkland. I know what Fred and his family has gone through over the past number of years, and now this is happening all over again. But as an American, I am outraged and I am exhausted. I'm outraged that our nation remains the only one in which the senseless murder of innocent children and their teachers is even tolerated. I'm exhausted that we have another double-digit death toll and one side refuses to do anything. I'm honored to stand with a lot of leaders here today, including senators and assembly members, and by the way, many others who wanted to be with us today and could not be. I'm honored to stand with community, educational leaders, faith leaders, all of whom are ready to do something. New Jerseyans who believe, as I do, and as the vast majority of New Jerseyans do, that enough school children are gunned down, that we can end this senseless and relentless cycle. For those of us standing here, and as I said, many others who are with us in spirit this morning or this afternoon, we have had enough of thoughts and prayers. We've had enough of excuses and inaction. We've had enough of the deflections and enough of the delays. Congress has failed to lead time and time and time again. So it's up to us to do the job others are too weak to do. I introduced the Comprehensive Gun Safety 3.0 package over a year ago, to be precise on April 15th, 2021. And this moment demands that the legislature finally take action. And by the way, these proposed laws are hardly revolutionary. They would, among other things, mandate safe storage of guns. They would ensure that those seeking to buy a gun are actually trained in the safe handling of that gun. They would give police tools to better track the paths of firearms used to commit crimes. And I'm honored that the Attorney General, Matt Placken, and the Superintendent of the State Police, Pat Callahan, are standing among us today. The laws would prohibit the sale of weapons that can literally bring down helicopters. They would allow us to hold the gun industry liable for the carnage it has enabled. And I want to acknowledge Bill Kastner, our senior gun advisor for so many years, who's with us today. The legislators standing with me this afternoon and many others who could not be here are ready to act, and I thank them profusely. And I am ready to sign them into law. And by the way, we've been ready for this now for over a year. So I call upon the Senate President and the Assembly Speaker to put these bills up for a vote, so the people of New Jersey can see exactly where every legislator stands on these common sense measures. But another thought, let's not stop there. I further asked the legislature to immediately put up every bill seeking to unravel our gun laws at the same time. Let's make every legislator choose whose side they have chosen to be on. The people of New Jersey on the one hand, or the gun lobby on the other hand. It's quite simple. So in the face of mass shooting after mass shooting throughout our nation, in the face of children being slaughtered to the point where the reports indicate that these beautiful, precious children were unrecognizable. I say, let these folks come out from behind their press releases and their tweets and cast votes before the residents of this great state. Let the people of New Jersey see who votes yes to legalizing hollow point cop killer bullets, as Assembly Minority Leader John DeMaio wants. Let the people of New Jersey see who votes yes to high-capacity ammunition magazines, as Senator Ed Durr wants. Let the people of New Jersey see who votes yes to saying that churchgoers should be able to take their guns to services, as Senator Mike Doherty wants. Let the people of New Jersey see who votes yes to allowing anyone, and when I say anyone, I literally mean anyone, to carry a concealed gun, as Senator Durr and Assemblyman Ron Dancer want. Let the people of New Jersey see who votes yes to repealing our red flag law and letting those known to have made violent threats, including, by the way, domestic abusers, unfettered access to as many guns as they want, as Senator Durr wants. Let's put every gun bill up so the people of New Jersey can see in no uncertain terms who supports gun safety and who wants New Jersey's streets and communities to be flooded with guns. And by the way, at the same time, let's see who the gun lobby banks on with their blood money. There is no lack of irony, sad irony, that those who would stop at nothing to strip a woman of her rights and autonomy and force her to give birth to a child are doing nothing to prevent that child from being murdered in their schools. In 4 years, I am proud of the progress that we have made to become one of the nation's leading states on gun safety. But I'm not satisfied, and I know no one up here with me is satisfied with being one of. Let's send the message now. Let's act before our nation gets lulled back into its slumber. And by the way, as it already was beginning to do after the murders in Buffalo. The scripture is clear. James chapter 2, verse 17. Faith without works is dead. Thoughts and prayers are worthless. Action is the only thing of value. With that, please help me welcome an outstanding leader in this arena and in so many others, dear friend, great leader, Senator Joe Cryan.
Governor, thank you, and clearly a call to arms. You've all seen the media feeds from the past 24 hours and what people think. And the one that stays with me, I don't know who wrote it, said, I'm all for rights, but I'm all for children's right to see a tomorrow. And as I drove to work today, I have to tell you, the traffic takes you a different way these days, as many of you know. And mine took me past Connecticut Farm School in the township of Union, an elementary school, the corner of Chestnut and Wewanna. And I watched, because you caught the light, moms literally holding their child's hands. And I watched a young mom kiss her probably second grade daughter and send her off to school with her knapsack that they wear now, and just look at her a little bit. I'm not going to say it was a long goodbye or something that would probably fit into this mode, but I watched her do it, and I wondered, yesterday, a mom did that in Texas. And instead of getting a kiss at the end of the day, and then I love you, Mommy, how was school, that mother had to provide DNA so that someone could identify her child for her. Let's put that in context. If you say it can't happen here, why can't it? And the question for me, and the question I believe for legislators is, because we can't change, as the governor said so eloquently, we can't change what's in Washington right now, and hopefully we do in the future. But we can handle and we can be responsible for what happens here in New Jersey. So the question for us as legislators is did you do all you can do to prevent this in the future? No one says you can prevent all of this. But did you do, as a legislator, as a senator, as an assembly member, did you do all that you could do? And one of the ways to answer that question of yes is to move a common sense gun package that only provides more safety for all of New Jersey. These aren't ridiculous, out of the scope, hard to believe type of legislation. I'm going to only name a couple of them for you. One is to ask that 18-year-olds who in this state are eligible to buy a rifle but not a handgun, that we raise that age to 21 for all. Just, that's it. You can't drink when you're 18. All we want you to do is wait till you're 21 to be able to buy a firearm. Does that sound so unreasonable in this day and age? No, not at all. If you move into this state, and we are in a transit society, if you move into New Jersey, all we ask is that if you are a possessor of firearms, all we ask is that you register those firearms in this state. We don't want to go into your house. We don't want to know your kids' names. We don't want to know your health. We just want to know that you own weapons that could potentially take the lives of your neighbors, your citizens, and your family. That's all we want. Is that so unreasonable? I don't think so. It doesn't seem unreasonable at all. The governor mentioned it, and you all have seen it. We've seen case after case where when folks store ammunition and guns together, that bad things happen. Is it so unreasonable to ask that we safe storage, that we store them separately, we store them safely, so that the young people don't have access in their own homes to weapons that can lead to terrible tragedies? There's a few more. The governor mentioned them. I don't have a lot of time. But I know this. For each legislator who ran for the office, the question for you today is, did you do all you can do? And all you can do means passing this important package of gun reform in the state of New Jersey. Because you know what? Every child deserves the right to see a tomorrow, more than any other right. Thank you.
Awesome, buddy. Thank you, Joe. Cannot thank you enough, Joe, for that and for everything you do. We're joined by, as I mentioned, a bunch of outstanding leaders up here today, including outstanding legislators. We're not going to hear from all of them, but we're going to hear a few words from a few more. Please help me welcome another terrific leader, Assemblywoman Angelica Jimenez.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Governor. I am an Assemblywoman, but most importantly, I am a mother. I am a mother of a police officer in this great state and of a 16-year-old daughter. I remember Sandy Hook very well. You know, New Jersey does have great laws. We have space to improve. That's why we don't see those horrific acts that happen in other parts of the country. Do I believe that we can make a difference in other parts of the country? Yes, we do. I think with the package that we have coming, we can make a difference. Como Latina, yo estoy indignada. I am upset, I'm angry, because a parent like myself was not able to take her daughter or her son home. We cannot let this happen. We have to get the word out, not only to all New Jerseyans, but to the rest of the country, that this can't happen. It happens the most in black, in brown communities. These are my people. These are our people. These are the people we represent. Just ask yourself, as a parent, is this what you want at the end of the day? I don't want it for my son that's a police officer, and I don't want it for my daughter or your kids. Thank you, Governor. Continue doing what you have.
Amen to all, Angelica. Thank you so much for your being here and for your leadership. By the way, there's a lot of union brothers and sisters here today, as they literally almost always are when we're standing up and being counted. So deep appreciation for your being here. Please help me welcome another guy who, by the way, wears multiple hats. Herb Conaway has been incredibly important to this state, particularly in Burlington County, where he is the health commissioner, but also is an outstanding legislator, medical doctor, and chairman. Please help me welcome Dr. Herb Conaway.
Well, here we are, sadly, once again, taking in and trying to understand a terrible tragedy that has robbed the futures of so many individuals and literally rendering apart the lives of family members and community members who knew them. It's no small thing to say, but it's the truth, that we are experiencing an epidemic of these kinds of incidents here in our country, where when other countries, by the way, seeing the same thing, took action to deal with the common denominator for all of these events. The more guns you have circulating in society, the more guns you have in particular that are weapons of mass destruction, the more people who will senselessly die, who would otherwise be able to live out their lives and contribute not only to their families but the larger society. And so, as the governor has rightly said, and as Senator has rightly said, and my colleagues who will say, what will we do as legislators to ensure the safety of people here in New Jersey, and hopefully send a message across the land about what can be done to prevent these tragedies? We have strong laws here, but as a woman pointed out, we can do better, and we're called to do better. And for many people in this legislature, if you've been here for a couple of years, or more than 2 decades as I have been, these kinds of votes will be among the most important votes you will ever take, because lives, the very lives of your citizens, are at stake by the decisions that you take. These are life-saving measures we're trying to do. And I have to say, we have to remember the lives that are left, the records very often of lives that are left in the wake of these tragedies. And if you permit, those people, our countrymen who are dealing with these situations, we have to also remind them to try to stay balanced. There are good people out there who are trying to do their best. As bad as it is now, life can get better, and you will be able to get beyond this and move on it. Reach out for help from those who love you. Reach out for those leaders in your school who care about you, who can support you through this tragedy. Remain balanced in the wake of it, and understand that life can be better. I deal within healthcare all the time and see the tragedies of events like this and what it causes, the impact it has on lives throughout the lifespan, and how difficult it is to overcome these things. These impacts, lead to depression, lead to further violence very often, lead to many adverse health effects, and really, for many people, stay with them for the rest of their lives. That very notion should inspire us to act, inspire us to prevent people from having to struggle through those challenges, all preventable. So I'm proud to stand here with this governor, with people, persons in law enforcement, with concerned citizens like yourselves. By the way, it's going to be active participation in our democracy. Now, here in New Jersey, you can vote. I worry about these other states where they're making it difficult for people to vote. But for those elected officials there who need to be called to account and to stand up and say, what are you going to do? How are you going to change the future for the people in your state, and for the people like yourselves who do the voting, who work and play and do all the things that make living on this earth important, living in your respective states important, to participate and hold accountable those people who are refusing in the wake of overwhelming evidence to take action to end senseless loss of life. The only way it changes, if we participate in our democratic process, hold people to account, and if they don't stand up and say yes to these measures that the governor pointed out, then somebody else needs to be put in office who will. Thank you very much.
So well said, Herb. Thank you for your leadership on this and so many other matters. Among our legislators, last but certainly not least, in fact, technically she's hosting us because we're in her district in the proud, great community of Trenton, which has seen, unfortunately, its share and more so of gun violence. Please help me welcome Assemblywoman Verlina Reynolds Jackson.
Thank you, Governor, for allowing me the opportunity to come here today. They called me yesterday and asked me if I would come to the press conference. Without knowing, Saturday, my office is literally down the street at 144. I can see my mother's back door from my office. That I got a call on Saturday at 1:30 in the morning that 16 rounds of bullets were swirling on West Hanover Street, and one had went through my mother's window, through the kitchen. Thank the Lord she is okay. But I resonate with all of the remarks that have come today, because when you go to drop your kids off at school, or I go by lunchtime to say, "Hi, Mom, how you doing?" I want to make sure that I go back and I see them and I pick them up and I love and I kiss on them. The families that continue to go through these senseless gun violence is horrific. And so, Governor, I'm glad that you're able to call out on people to say this should be bipartisanship. We should be able to come together to pass common sense legislation, period. Representing the capital city and all the gun violence, having a hospital that focuses on trauma and chronic illnesses. These are all the things that are happening in my community right here every single day. But common sense legislation, what it takes. Then we should call on our counterparts to say, here's the olive branch. How many more senseless crimes and gun violence do we have to go through? So I'm just going to end it there, Governor, so that we can continue to do the work that we have to do. But I thank all my colleagues for coming down and supporting you today.
Thank you, Verlina, thank you. I know your mother. God bless her. Thank the Lord that she literally dodged that bullet. And again, thank you. We have two other very important speakers, and then we'll take a couple of brief questions on topic, if we could today, given the solemnity of why we're gathered. The red T-shirts are here in the house, as they always are. And sometimes we gather with a sense of joy and pride because we're taking a positive step that's not in the wake of a tragedy, but this is not one of those days. But thank you all the T-shirts of all colors, and in this case, one of your own, red T-shirt, is with us. Please help me welcome the state's legislative lead, Jennifer Gonzalez, representing Moms Demand Action. I lost track of that.
I just wanted to first thank Governor Murphy for his leadership in combating the epidemic of gun violence and for making this issue a priority for his administration from day one. As a volunteer with Moms Demand Action, a grassroots movement of Americans fighting for public safety measures to protect people from gun violence, and as a mother of 4 young children, I am so thankful to call him my governor. I also wanted to thank the legislators that are here who have made fighting gun violence a priority. Once again, our hearts break for yet another community impacted by yet another horrific act of gun violence in an American school. As a mother of 4 children, all of whom are in school right now, it is difficult to describe the feelings of heartbreak, devastation, fear, and anger. Yes, anger that I'm experiencing. Saying goodbye to my children today, as I sent them off to school, I, like millions of American parents, held them a little longer. As I watched them walk away, I silently memorized their clothes, all the details of what they were wearing, horrified that we live in a time and place that makes that necessary. The fact that our nation has allowed us to get to this place where our children are slaughtered day in and day out, where no place in this country is safe, not schools, not places of worship, not grocery stores, not in our own streets and our parks, all due to fear of a gun lobby. It's both heartbreaking and enraging. Daily, unrelenting, horrific gun violence is a uniquely American crisis. Firearms are now the first leading cause of death. The first leading cause of death, not car crashes or anything else. Firearms of children and teens in the United States. This isn't happening in any other high-income country. Every nation is home to people with mental health challenges. Every nation is home to angry teenagers. What makes our country different is that here, in our country, the United States, we give them an arsenal. We don't have to continue tolerating this. While we know that nationwide solutions are needed to address this crisis, there's also so much we can do right here in New Jersey to save lives. New Jersey has some of the strongest and best gun laws in the country. We also have some of the lowest rates of gun violence and gun deaths in the entire country. And they're not independent coincidences. We know that gun safety laws save lives. We're proud to be a model for the nation, but we still experience rates of gun violence not experienced anywhere else in the developed world. We're still impacted by the policies of other states, by guns being trafficked from other states into our communities. As a mother, I'm heartbroken over preventable gun deaths that occur from guns not being stored securely away from children. There are now millions more guns in homes than there were just a few years ago. Too many that are not securely stored. This school year, there's been more incidents of gunfire on school grounds than at any other similar period since we started tracking this. Over 80% of child firearm suicides involve a gun belonging to a parent or relative. Approximately 80% of shooters involved in gunfire on school grounds are under 18 years old and obtain their guns from home or from the homes of a relative or friend. These are preventable. That's why I support strengthening our firearm storage laws and educating the public about the importance of storing firearms and ammunition securely. We also want to see the bad actors within the firearm industry held accountable for the conduct that has helped drive the epidemic of gun violence in our state. As a mother, I'm in this fight because I don't want to see my children or yours grow up with the constant fear of gun violence in a world where they know that kids just like them continue to have their lives brutally cut short because adults failed to act and failed to implement policies to keep them safe. Here in New Jersey, we want to see policies enacted that demonstrate our values. We care about our children's futures. We care about each other. We care about making our schools, our communities, our streets, and our state safer. We're calling on lawmakers to continue to set an example for the nation by packing this comprehensive package of common sense gun safety bills. As a mother, as a resident of New Jersey, I'm urging our legislature to pass Gun Safety Bill 3.0 as soon as possible, which will save lives and make our state a safer place. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. So well said, and thank you for your leadership and all of your mom's colleagues with us today and beyond. Last but not least, a guy who brings multiple perspectives, particularly given, as I mentioned, not only did we lose 19 precious kids, but 2 educators were killed yesterday. He's a classroom teacher. He is a mayor, and he is the president of the New Jersey Education Association. In all of those respects, it is an honor to have him with us today. Please help me welcome Sean Spiller.
Well, thank you, Governor, and certainly As a teacher and parent myself, and getting the news, I know I was with the Assemblyman yesterday when we heard, and I can tell you as a father who drops off both of our kids, 4-year-old and 2-year-old every morning, and you hear this, and it's just saddening, it's sickening, it's angering, it's so many emotions that you battle with, and at some point we look at this and say, when is enough enough? When will we take the actions we need to get the change we deserve? Once again, children and educators are dead and injured. Families are devastated, and a community is in shock and mourning. We join in Uvalde and America as we are saddened by the horrific events. We're also joining millions of Americans across this country in calling for strong measures to better protect our children and our communities from this preventable epidemic of gun violence. Our nation still refuses to acknowledge and address the scourge of gun violence. America's failure to protect its children from gun violence is inexcusable. Our schools should be safe havens for learning. Parents should never have to fear for the safety of their children when they're at school or anywhere else. Students should never have to wonder if they will fall victim to gun violence at school. But we've seen this tragedy unfold too many times already to think that it will finally soften the hearts of those in Washington, D.C. Those who continue to block meaningful, common-sense measures to stop our children from being slaughtered. And unfortunately, we see that it's not just in D.C. where some continue to block common-sense gun control laws that will stop our children from being slaughtered. The members I represent would do anything for their students. We've had too many opportunities to see that educators, teachers will put themselves in harm's way, put themselves in front of bullets, if it means they can save maybe just one more of their students, one more of those children. But that is something we shouldn't have to see over and over again. It's on our elected leaders, particularly those in Washington. They are the ones who need to demonstrate the courage to finally address this crisis. They are the ones who need to stand in the way to protect our students from this each and every day. They need to follow the example of our governor and those standing here and those who support the common sense gun reforms that we're talking about today. Our children and our communities need to be put ahead of lobbyists and campaign contributions. They need to decide that they value the lives of our children more than they value the political agenda of the NRA. We must demand better action, or we must elect better leaders. And to those who say it's too soon to call for action, we only say that it's too late for those in Uvalde. But maybe it's not too late for other children across America from similar tragedies or similar fate. Our children and all Americans deserve to be safe in school, safe at home, or safe everywhere they go. Our nation owes it to them to ensure their safety and to make sure no student and no educator ever has to experience anything like this ever again. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Before we take a couple of questions, we need to make New Jersey's gun laws as strong as possible. And we're going to, all of us up here, and I know all of you out there, are going to do everything we can to make that happen. But as we discussed in a team call earlier, Paramel reminded me that universal background checks, to give you a sense of how strong the gun lobby is, universal background checks is supported by about 90% of Americans. And yet that lobby, if you want any sense of how powerful it is, has stood between the will of the American people and action in Congress. Matt, I think you'll also agree that we're very concerned that a Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court hostile to gun safety laws is considering a concealed carry law in New York, which could have profound implications on New Jersey. So there are heavy, heavy headwinds here. And Pat, I think Colonel Callahan will, I think, back me up that 80+% of the crime guns recovered in New Jersey are from out of state. So this is an and both moment. We need to make our laws as strong as possible. We need to change things in Washington. We founded States for Gun Safety. We need to get more states involved with us who are like-minded and join us. And it's an all of the above moment. We can't accept anything less given the precious loss of life and the even remote prospect, if not real prospect, that this is not the last time this will happen. A couple of quick on-topic questions. Elise. Yeah, I'm not sure technically whether we did or not, so we'll come back to you on that. We've been working with them and their teams since April of 2001, so it's not like we woke up yesterday afternoon and said, you know, we ought to dust off our energies related to package 3.0. I don't know is the answer to the last question. I think it would be a good question to ask them. Dave. Not the first time in the past 2 weeks, by the way, we've been addressing this, by the way.
Basically put out a situation where you want to have the vote to be able to see who votes in which way for what. Is there anything else that you can do as the leader of the state to try to appeal to people whose heels are dug in on this issue from a human perspective? I don't know if that means inviting them over to your place for lunch, a sandwich, talk to them person to person.
In my case, probably a drink. We've done all of the above. And by the way, let's remember that we have passed gun safety package 1.0 and 2.0. So it's not like we're starting from scratch, right? And that's thanks to a lot of people in this room and folks who aren't in this room who have been huge. Loretta Weinberg, who's no longer in the Senate, was a giant. Lou Greenwald, the majority leader, has been a giant, as well as many of the folks, all the folks standing with me. I do think this is, Sean mentioned when's enough enough. I think it was probably 10 years ago, maybe longer, but I do believe, in as much as I'm a good guy who wants to sit and try to persuade, and we do a lot of that, and I enjoy it, this is a moment where I think folks need to be stand up and be counted. Let it rise or fall with those votes. I hope it rises, right? But I think the citizens and residents of this state deserve to know exactly where everybody stands and go from there. Joey. Yeah. Yeah. I think this is all options on the table moment. So I don't have a specific answer to a special session, but Joe Cryan said it. I think this is, we're going to look back and we're going to ask, where was everybody? Exactly where were you at this moment in history? And if there's a weapon in a tool in my toolbox that we can use that will make a difference here, I want to be on the side of he did everything he could do. And in terms of exactly who, let's have the votes. Let's do the votes right now. We've got a budget we're negotiating quite successfully, I might add, over the next 5 weeks. This is the time to do it. Let's stand up and be counted. One more from Dustin.
So it sounds like in the last couple of weeks when we've done these events, have you not had any discussions with the Speaker and the Senate President about putting this bill for a vote or negotiating what any people's thoughts are? And another question that maybe is general can answer related to the increased school security. Is that something that is just for today, or is it up to the local county prosecutors and the state police along that line?
On the former, we talk all the time. We enjoy a very good relationship with the leadership and their teams, and this is a constant discussion, as a whole range of other topics with which we discuss with them. But this is, for lack of a better phrase, a break the glass moment. Enough. That's not directed at just them. This is all of us. Let's look in the mirror and see where you are on this. Maybe Matt and Pat maybe want to come up and address what we're doing with schools to your second question.
Sure. Last night, I directed all law enforcement in the state. We held a statewide law enforcement call to have increased visible presence at our schools. The colonel had state police have increased visible presence at schools in the districts that the state police cover. That will be ongoing. We did direct them to do that last night, and they were out there this morning. I should say that this is the second time in 2 weeks that we've had that directive go out. Last week, we directed law enforcement to have visible presence around houses of worship, particularly in our black communities. That's ongoing. So to the point the governor has made, I think we all agree that we're tired of having these calls. And I know every law enforcement officer out there, and I spoke to a lot of them last night, and I thank them for what they did today to make parents and students feel comfortable, it's safe to go to school, because you should. We are doing everything we can. But I think it's safe to say we're tired of having to direct law enforcement to be in front of schools. I hugged my son to bed last night and then went upstairs and spoke to hundreds of law enforcement officers about how we were going to make sure that kids like him across the state were safe. So it is ongoing, but we're tired of the fact that it's ongoing.
Amen. Well said. Nothing to add, except one thing, Colonel, that folks know this, but it's good to remind them that the state police not only is the state police, but you have primary responsibility in over 100 communities, 111 schools in this state where the state police is the primary law enforcement agency. To everybody here, I won't mention you by name. There are lots of folks here who have been absolutely stalwart in this journey. We've had success in the past. Let's get there again. Let's do it again in New Jersey. Let's set a model. Let's keep working with our neighbors. Let's pray that we have a more constructive Supreme Court, and either we get action in Congress or we put new people in Congress to make sure we get action. Thank you, everybody.